Welcome back to your next maths lesson for Mrs. Rosa's group, and that is your Jade, Indigo, and Amber group. And I really hope you liked yesterday's lesson. Um, I think maybe some of you must have found it hard. Some of you found it easy. I don't know. So you need to tell me in those emails. So make sure you keep sending in your learning, and um, of course, we're really impressed with all of you who are sending in your work and carry on doing so. We are really proud of you. And I know yesterday we did 12-hour clock. So we're going to move on and we're going to go slightly deeper and we're going to do 24-hour clock. And what I'm going to say is if you still want to practice your time and how to read the time on a clock, make sure that you do it with your grown-ups. I'm sure you either have a watch or a clock in your house. Keep asking your grown-ups what's the time or read the time to them. Remind them, oh, it's lunchtime. Oh, it's playtime. And tell them, oh, it's already 3:30. That means I've done my learning for the day. Okay, so keep using those watches and those clocks if you've got them. And let's move on. So today we will be doing the 24-hour clock. Yesterday we did the 12-hour clock. Today the 24-hour clock. So you've got your date on this side for today and your li is to read the 24-hour clock. Okay? The words that we have used, we will be using them today again. However, the only thing that we will be changing is using the 24-hour clock. So you know your hour is the shortest hand on your clock, represented in 12 hours, but today we'll be doing 24 hours. I know, sounds really tricky. It could be tricky, it could be easy, you never know, okay? You've got your minutes. Your minutes don't change. Your minutes will always be the same. And you've got your o'clock, which is when your minute hand is always on the 12. It's always an o'clock. Your PM is afternoon or evening. Your AM is your morning. So you've got afternoon and morning. Okay. Now, just a recap of your 12-hour clock like we did yesterday. So we said that your 12-hour clock goes from 12 to 12, and if you need to complete a whole day, it has to go from 12 to 12 two times in a day. And we use AM or PM to represent the time, and usually AM is for the morning and PM is afternoon or evening. So over here, your time, if you check in hours, remember you always write your hours first and then your minutes. So your hour will be 9 and your minutes, which is your longer hand, will be after your 5-minute count. So your 5 minutes will be your 5 times table starting from the 1, 5, 10. So your time will be 9, 10. Okay, if it's in the morning, it would be 9, 10 a.m. If it is at night, just before you go to bed, it's 9, 10 p.m. So that is your 12-hour clock. And now for the tricky bit, your 24-hour clock. Okay, so you have to listen very carefully. Make sure you pause the video or go back to the video if you require at any time. Okay, so the 24-hour clock does not go from 12 to 12. It goes from 0. If you have a look, your 24 hours is on the outside of this clock. So it goes from 0 all the way round to 23. Okay? And the time is always shown in 4 digits, like on your digital clock. So it's shown in 4 digits. 1, 2, 3, and 4 digits. Okay, but it's the same as your 12-hour clock or your digital clock. This will be your hours, followed by the 2 dots, which is your colon, and then the minutes on this side. Okay, now for your 24-hour clock, we don't use AM or PM because it's 24-hour clock, which means that it is always afternoon or evening. Every time we show you the 24-hour clock, it's always in the afternoon or in the evening. Okay? So that's why we say a 24-hour clock, and it's always with 0 if you require over here, but it's always 4 digits. And if you have a look at your 12-hour clock, you have to write AM or PM. You don't have to write AM or PM for your 24-hour clock. Okay? So hours first, and then your minutes. When you do your 24-hour clock, you will always look on this outside to write your hours in your 24-hour clock. So 0, 13, because after 12 comes 13. Okay, for your 24-hour clock, which is always in the evening or afternoon. So it will be 12, 13, 14, 15. So this hour over here is 15, which is by 15, and your minute hand, your minutes is 0. Okay, because when you start from here, if this is 5 minutes, this is 0 minutes. Okay, right. So this is your 12-hour clock, and this is your 24-hour clock. And it's represented in the same way. Your hours are always on this side. Look, your hours on this side. And then you have your 2 dots, which is your colon, and then your minutes on the other side. Now, whether you have a 12-hour clock or a 24-hour clock, the minutes will always be the same. The minutes will always be the same. So this is your 12-hour clock, this is your 24-hour clock, but your minutes is always the same. Okay? It is only that your hours will change. So your hours in your 24-hour clock goes from 0 to 23. So if you have a look in the previous slide, if you have a look at this 9, over here it's 9:15. Okay? So 9 over here in your 24-hour clock will be 21. Which is why it is 21:15. Okay, I'm going to repeat myself. This is a 12-hour clock. This is a 24-hour clock. Your minutes on this side will always remain the same for both your 24-hour clock and your 12-hour clock. It's only that your hours will be changing. But in your 24-hour clock, you will always have 4-digit numbers over there. Okay, so now, like I said, if this is 9:15, have a look at the 9, and in your 24-hour clock, it's 21. So it will be 21:15 because this doesn't change. Okay, right. We're going to read this clock as a 24-hour clock. So we know that our 24-hour clock always runs in a PM. So if this is your 12-hour clock, if you have a look in your 24-hour clock, your 3, remember your hours always come first. So your hour in your 12-hour clock is 3. So that means in your 24 hours, 3 is 15. Okay? Because 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 hour. The next one, this is your 12-hour clock, which is 9, because it's 9 hours and 10 minutes. Like I said, count in 5 minutes, 5, 10. So it is 9 hours and 10 minutes. But have a look at, like I said, your minutes will not change in both 12 hours and 24 hours clock. So that's why your minutes is always the same. Have a look at 9 and have a look at your 24-hour clock, which is 21. So 21:10. Next one, we know I've only put your 24-hour clock over here. So if you had to do it in your 12-hour clock, it would be 5, because it's in the middle of 5 and 6. It's not exactly on the 6, though I think it is. What is it? Okay, let's check that one. Okay, so this is 17. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this means that it is in between the 5 and the 6. That means we take the first number, which is 5. So we know that it's 5:50 because if we check from our minutes, 5, 10, 50, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So we know that the minutes is 50 and we know that it's 5. But the 5 means it is in 24 hours 17. So 17:50. Our minutes on our 12-hour clock and 24-hour clock don't change. Next one. Okay, so what you have to do is try and read this clock as a 24-hour clock, and this will be your task for today, is to read the clock and write it down on that piece of paper in a 24-hour time. Okay, so if this was your 24-hour clock, what time would it be? Okay, so we know that in a 12-hour clock, it would have been 3:30 because 6 in minutes, 6, the number 6 in minutes, this is your minute hand. So the minutes would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So let me write that one. We know that this is 30. And we know that in 12-hour clock, this would have been a 3. So in a 24-hour clock, 3 is the same as 15 in a 24-hour clock. So this would have been 15:30. Okay. Your next one. Okay, let me give you a clue. So you need to write this in a 24-hour clock. If it was 12-hour clock, your time would have been 1:45. So it would have been 1:45. So what would it be in your 24-hour clock? Figure this out. Okay. Pause the video if you require to look at the time and write your answer. And the next one. Okay, in your 12-hour clock, this would have been 8:25. So if this is 8:25, what would the answer be in your 24-hour clock? Next one. This is 4:50. So what would the answer be in your 24-hour clock? 4:50. Okay. And make sure you send in all your answers. I've tried to make this as simple as possible so that you take your time to understand. So for this lesson, you have got to do only 3 questions and write the answers to me. And based on your answers, I will have a look, and maybe some of you, for those of you who haven't understood, I will try and make it as simple as possible by doing another lesson for you. So do let me know how you feel about this lesson and if you have understood. Okay, and do send in all your replies, all your answers and all your questions to year3@grange.harrow.sch.uk. Okay, until tomorrow's lesson, take care and have a good evening. Bye.